Session I. Diplomacy from Mudanya to Lausanne. 7. Diplomacy from Mudanya to Lausanne. 1. Introduction. The Ottoman Empire, defeated in the First World War and occupied by the victors of the war, collapsed, and a new Turkish state was established through the War of Independence. To safeguard the victory achieved by the regular army units formed by the Grand National Assembly of Turkey on the battlefronts at the diplomatic table, a long struggle was waged after the war. In his memoirs, İzmit İnönü expressed the post-war expectation as follows. We entered Izmir. Anatolia was cleared of the Greek forces. Now the political phase of the matter will begin. We must make peace as quickly as possible. We have been in conflict for 15 years. Especially the last 4 years were so difficult that they would overshadow what we experienced in the entire World War. In the country, among the people, in all of us, there is only one unspoken desire: peace as soon as possible. Diplomacy from Mudanya to Lausanne. 2. Çanakkale Crisis. 2. Çanakkale Crisis. Lloyd George, British Prime Minister. On September 13th, the Turkish army was ordered to go to Çanakkale. British side landed troops on the Anatolian side of the Dardanelles Strait. The Turkish side continued its desire to resolve issues through diplomacy. Turkish troops were ordered not to open fire. Although the parties came as close as 20 to 30 meters, no clash broke out. Deprived of its allies, England attempted to stop the Turkish operation through diplomatic means. 2. Çanakkale Crisis. 2. Çanakkale Crisis. General Harrington. The concession of Thrace up to the Maritsa/Marek River. October 3th. 3. Mudanya Armistice Treaty and its consequences. 3. Mudanya Armistice Treaty and its consequences. İzmit Pasha.
Gen Harrington. Gen Harpe. Gen Monbelli.
Mazarakis. 3. Mudanya Armistice Treaty and its consequences. While the proposal to leave eastern Thrace to Turkey as desired, encompassing Edirne and the Maritsa River, was accepted, a dispute arose regarding the provisions concerning Istanbul and the Straits. Discussions were suspended on October 5th. The Turkish Grand National Assembly began considering military action. Britain and Turkey came to the brink of war. Negotiations resumed on October 7th. Turkish demands were largely accepted, and a ceasefire was signed on October 11, 1922. Mudanya Armistice Treaty and its consequences: the Turkish-Greek armed conflict will cease. Greeks will withdraw to the west of the Marek River. Until the signing of peace, crucial points in the region will be under the control of the Allied powers, and Turks will not cross the specified boundaries in the Istanbul and Izmit regions. Greece will evacuate eastern Thrace within 15 days, and eastern Thrace will be left to the officials appointed by the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, TBMM. The TBMM will be allowed to have a gendarmerie force of 8,000, and Allied troops will remain in their current locations until the peace is signed. 3. Mudanya Armistice Treaty and its consequences. Mudanya Armistice Agreement's significance. It is the written document of the military success of the Turkish people in the national struggle. Eastern Thrace was obtained through diplomacy without the need for armed conflict. Turkey has regained its territories in Europe. With the treaty, England recognized the Turkish state in the eyes of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. 3. Mudanya Armistice Treaty and its consequences. Mudanya Armistice Agreement's significance. The Middle East policy of British Prime Minister Lloyd George became invalid, and his political career also came to an end. The dream of the Great Greece megalo idea by Greek Prime Minister Venizelos has come to an end. In Greece, the Turkish War of Independence is referred to as the Asia Minor catastrophe. What could be done against the brilliance of Mustafa Kemal? Diplomacy from Mudanya to Lausanne. 4. Developments before the Treaty of Lausanne. Turkey has requested that the negotiations take place in Izmir and has also called for the participation of representatives from the Soviet Union, Ukraine, and Georgia in discussions related to the Straits issue. England has rejected the proposal, stating that if the Soviet Union participates, the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, TBMM, would gain Russian support. They also argued that if the negotiations take place in Izmir, Venizelos could be offended, and by having a Turkish chairman for the conference, the prestige of the Turks would increase. Lord Curzon. The Allied powers were aiming to create division by also inviting the Istanbul government to the negotiations.
29 Ekim 1922
They requested the sending of a representative on behalf of Ankara, and if that was not possible, they stated that the representative from Ankara would be selected by themselves. Sovereignty is not given by anyone to anyone through discussion or debate just because it is a scientific requirement. Sovereignty is taken by power, strength, and force. The Ottoman rulers forcibly seized the sovereignty of the Turkish nation, and they maintained this intrusion for 6 centuries. Now, the Turkish nation, saying enough to these aggressors, has taken its sovereignty into its own hands by uprising. This is a fait accompli. The question is not whether we will allow the nation to retain its sovereignty. It is merely stating the fact that the people, by taking action, have already done so. This is a reality that has come to pass. The issue at hand is not whether we will let the people keep their sovereignty or not. It is simply about acknowledging the fact that this has already happened. This will be done no matter what. If those gathered here, the parliament, and everyone finds this natural, it would be appropriate, in my opinion. Otherwise, the truth will still be determined according to its course. However, there is a possibility that some heads may roll. Developments before the Treaty of Lausanne. The cabinet of Tevfik Pasha has resigned the last caliph, Abdülmecid Efendi, November 19, 1922, November 4, 1922. Developments before the Treaty of Lausanne. İzmit Pasha, Dr. Riza Nur Hasan Saka. Developments before the Treaty of Lausanne. Directive given to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey delegation heading to Lausanne eastern border. The idea of an Armenian homeland cannot be accepted. If brought up, the negotiations will be halted. Iraq border. Sulaymaniyah, Kirkuk, and Mosul Sanjaks will be demanded. If a different situation arises, instructions will be obtained from the government. Regarding the issue of privileges such as oil, some economic benefits may be discussed with the British. Assyria border. Efforts will be made to rectify the border. Directive given to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey delegation heading to Lausanne. Islands. Depending on the situation, action will be taken, and islands very close to our shores will immediately be annexed to our country. If success is not achieved, guidance will be sought from Ankara. Thrace border. Efforts will be made to obtain the 1914 border. Western Thrace. The National Pact principle will be applied. A plebiscite will be requested. Straits and Gallipoli Peninsula. Foreign military forces will not be accepted. If it is necessary to break off negotiations on this matter, Ankara will be informed. Developments before the Treaty of Lausanne. Directive given to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey delegation heading to Lausanne. Capitulations. Not acceptable. If necessary, negotiations will be discontinued. Minorities. The main principle is exchange. Ottoman debts will be distributed among the countries that have separated from Turkey. It will be offset against the repair cost received from Greece, or if not available, will be postponed for 20 years. The Ottoman Public Debt Administration will be abolished. In case of difficulties, Ankara will be consulted. Army and Navy. There will be no limitation. Developments before the Treaty of Lausanne. Directive given to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey delegation heading to Lausanne. Foreign organizations. They will be subject to Turkish laws. A countries separated from Turkey. The special provision of the National Pact is in effect. Islamic communities and foundations will be regulated according to previous agreements. According to the instructions given to the delegation, No concessions will be made on capitulation issues related to the Armenian homeland. If the matter is brought up for discussion, Lausanne will be bonded without the need to consult Ankara. After the military phase of the War of Independence, the first step in the political struggle phase was the Mudanya armistice. Despite those who saw political negotiations as futile and wanted to continue military operations due to mutual tension and distrust, TBMM government adopted a peace-oriented approach, preventing further oppression of the Turkish nation and the depletion of resources. The gains that could be achieved by continuing military operations were obtained through diplomacy without fighting, thanks to the Mudanya armistice. Following the armistice, the abolition of the Sultanate resolved both the international representation issue and transferred sovereignty from a specific group to its rightful owner, the nation. The TBMM government, forming a delegation under the leadership of Ismet Pasha for the peace treaty, provided instructions to the delegation heading to Lausanne within the framework of the state's red lines, emphasizing the delineation of its borders in line with Misak-I Milli, National Pact, and asserting its status as an independent state. Question examples. 1. I. Capitulations 2. Minorities 3. Ottoman debts 4. Sultanate issue v. Islands. Among the above, which one cannot be one of the subject headings in the directive given to the delegation heading to Lausanne? I. D4. B2. C3. EV. 2. Which of the following cannot be evaluated as a historical significance of the Mudanya armistice? It documents the military success of the national struggle. B. Greek soldiers had to leave Izmir after the agreement. C. Eastern Thrace was regained without the need for war. D. England recognized the Turkish state by the treaty with the Net. E. Greek Prime Minister Venizelos's dream of Greater Greece came to an end. 3. On September 9th, Izmir was liberated from the Greek occupation, and the Turkish military was redirected to areas still under the occupation of Allied forces. This situation brought Mustafa Kemal face to face with the British forces and almost led to the emergence of a new war. Which of the following events is mentioned in the passage? A. Minority issue. B. Kanakale crisis. C. Patricane issue. D. Hatti issue. E. Armenian issue. 4. Which of the following is not one of the developments leading to the abolition of the Sultanate? England inviting the Istanbul government to the Lausanne Conference. B. Istanbul attempting to send a representative to Lausanne by telegram to the Ankara government. C. The Istanbul government claiming the authority to appoint the representative to the conference on behalf of Ankara. D. Sultan Vahdettin seeking asylum with the British side. E. The Turks having effectively taken back the sovereignty rights forcibly taken by the Ottomans from the Turkish nation. 5. Which of the following is not one of the developments preceding the Lausanne Conference? A signing of the Mudanya Armistice Agreement. B. Abolition of the Sultanate. C. Abolition of the Caliphate. D. Resolution of the issue regarding the location of the conference. E. Resolution of the issue regarding the participating countries in the conference.